Hello, this is Layla from Silk&Wool, and today we continue working on the Leafy Baby Blanket. In the previous videos we've chosen the yarn, we've done the swatch, and we've done the border. And now we are going to start working on the leaf pattern. To remind you, for this particular blanket I have chosen to make a larger border. So my border is 8 stitches on each side and 11 rows of seed stitch. And for this demonstration I will use stitch markers. Me personally, I've made already several blankets with this pattern, so I don't usually use stitch markers, but I think for beginners, especially for beginners knitting, this is a helpful tool to make sure that you haven't made a mistake in the lace pattern. So I will start basically the setup row for the lace pattern now, and I will place the stitch markers at the same time. So the number of the stitch markers will depend on the number of the pattern repeats that you have cast on, and you will need the same number plus 1 stitch marker. So first we do the border, and in this case it's 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 stitches, and I will place a marker, and this will be the beginning of the first pattern repeat. So now we will do 2 purl stitches and 13 knit stitches. So 2 purl and 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So the pattern repeat is 15 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 5, 15 stitches, and I put another marker, and I do 2 purl stitches and 13 knit stitches. I will repeat the process until I get to the end of the blanket. So, and this should be my last repeat. So again, 2 purl stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 knit stitches, put my last marker, and now we will do 2 purl stitches so that our pattern is symmetrical and the last leaf pattern is also surrounded by 2 columns of purl stitches. And as you can see, we now have left 8 stitches for our border, and I will work them in the seed stitch, which means that here you can see I have a knit stitch in front of me, so I will purl it, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, and knit. So again, this is because I have an odd number of pattern repeats, and therefore my total number of stitches is an odd number of stitches, and this is how the seed stitch works in this case. So you can now see, let me lift a little bit my camera, that I have all the pattern repeats separated by the stitch markers, and we can count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pattern repeats as I was planning on. So now I will turn my work, I'll bring the camera closer, and I will do the second setup row. So this is the second row of the lace pattern, and again we start with the border, 8 seed stitches, so knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Now we come to 2 symmetry stitches, and on the wrong side we will knit those 2 stitches. Let's move the marker, and now we're starting to work on the pattern, which will be 13 purl stitches, and 2 knit stitches, and we move our marker, and again we work 13 purl stitches, and 2 knit stitches in the end. And we continue like so until we get to the other side and to the other border. As I have mentioned before in my videos, I really like working this blanket with 2 strands of thin yarn, because the fabric that it gives is I like it better, but you do have to pay attention when you work with 2 strands of yarn to make sure you pick up both strands of the stitch from the previous row, and you have to make sure that you use 2 strands of the working yarn, because obviously it will not look nice if somewhere by mistake you use just 1 strand, and also this will be the weak point of the fabric. So I usually go back and correct, or I correct in the following row. I'll show you if that happens. And so we're getting closer to the end of the row here. I have to say I really like working with the yarn I'm using this time. I am in no way associated with hobby yarns, so I am just giving you my honest opinion. The yarn feels very soft. So it's a cotton and acrylic blend. I think it will be quite durable, and I will definitely do a trial and wash it in the washing machine after it's done, the blanket, to see how it works and how it washes. But so far it's working really well for me, and I really like the color. It's like earthy, very calm, very relaxing color, and it is very gender neutral. So I have done my last repeat here, so finishing with 2 knit stitches. And so on the wrong side, when you get to the end, you start your 6 stitch border straight away, because the 2 symmetry stitches, they are included in the pattern repeat here. And so we do purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and we turn around, and now we're ready to start the 3rd row of the lace pattern, which is the first row where yarn overs and knit togethers appear. So let me get the pattern up for myself, as I don't really remember it by heart yet, and I will be back. So I am now starting on the lace pattern in the 2021 version of the pattern. So there's 6 rows of the 6 stitch border. We've now done rows 7 and 8, which are the setup rows for the lace pattern. And now we're starting the lace itself, and we are on row 9. So here the first 4 stitches are the border, so instead of 4 stitches here, I'm making 8 for the seat stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I slip the marker and I start the first repeat. So the pattern says, and this is what we will do, is we will purl 2, knit 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, just grab both strands, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we do knit 2 together, so I grab both stitches and make a knit through both of them, yarn over and knit 1, slip the stitch marker and repeat that again. 1, 2, purl stitches, 10, knit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 3 stitches before our marker, and we do knit 2 together, yarn over and knit 1, and we continue with this repeat until we reach the end of our blanket. Knit 2. You see here I made a mistake in the previous row. I only have 1 strand of yarn and the other one is hanging out here, so I'm going to grab it through the stitch of the previous row, and I'm going to pass it on my needle. It's a little bit tight because obviously there is not enough yarn to do the whole loop because it was just hanging there, but it will straighten itself out. So I'm getting here to the last repeat. And what I have been doing here is I haven't even been counting 10 knit stitches. I was getting to the 3 stitches before the marker and knit 2 together, yarn over, knit. So we're now at the end of what is row 9 in the pattern, and so we're now going to do purl 2, which is our symmetry stitches, and now we're going to do the border. Our border is 8 stitches, here the border is 4 stitches. However, the difference is that for this blanket I have cast on an odd number of pattern repeats, which means I have an odd number of stitches in each row, and therefore I need to inverse the stitches at the end of the row. So the pattern says knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. However, I have to start with a purl stitch and end with a knit stitch. Again, this is the difference between having an even and an odd number of stitches in the row. So I've done my border. I turn the work and I'm now on what is row 10 in the pattern and row 4 of the lace pattern. So here is again the difference in the seed stitch, because we start with a knit and we do a purl. So knit, purl, knit, purl. And so here in the pattern you have purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 3, out of which the 2 stitches are the symmetry stitches. So in our case we finish the border on a purl stitch and we do 2 knit stitches for the symmetry, and now we can do the repeats of the pattern. So we start with the yarn over, and we do 2 purl stitches. So yarn over, purl stitch. Do not lose the yarn over. Make sure you can see it after you have completed the purl stitch. 1, 2 purl stitches. Now we do 2 purl 2 together. So again I just put my needle through 2 purl stitches and I purl them as 1. We do 9 purl stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 2 knit stitches, and slip the stitch marker, do a yarn over, purl 2, 1, 2, purl 2 together, then purl 9 stitches, and knit 2, and we continue like so until the end of the round. What I'm thinking as I'm following the pattern for this video, and with a different number of repeats and the 6 stitch border that does not correspond to what the pattern says. So while this should not be a problem for more experienced knitters who can orient themselves on how the stitches look and who know how certain patterns work with odd and even number of stitches, like it's the same for ribbing as it is for sit stitch. But I guess for beginners this may all be confusing. So I think I need to add a little bit clarity about this in my written pattern. So I guess I will work on that in the upcoming days and probably publish an update. Or I might even yeah, now I definitely need to update the old pattern, and I might even publish a completely new version that is tailor-made to thinner yarn and therefore larger number of pattern repeats and everything. So I guess that will keep me busy, and I will be posting updates on my blog, which is silkandwool.eu, and I will definitely link the new versions of the pattern as and when they come out. So that everyone who is watching the video they can refer to a newer pattern version if it is available at the time when they're watching. What have I done here? Okay. Right, so this is the last repeat of the row for me. And up, need to slip the stitch marker, and I am going to do my border, which in this case is going to be also purl one, knit one, all the way for the 8 stitches. So what I have forgotten to mention at the end of the first lace row is that, especially if you're a beginner, now that you have your stitch markers, every time at the end of the row I recommend that you count the stitches between the markers, and you should have 15 stitches for each repeat. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 5, and so on. You count all the stitches between all the markers to ensure that you have not made a mistake. It is especially more important after the wrong side row, because The yarn overs before the purl stitches, they tend to get lost sometimes, so please check the number of the stitches. If you are missing a stitch somewhere, go back, undo your work and find what is missing, and we will continue for the next row. So I am now on row 11 of the 2021 version of the pattern, which is also the 5th row of the lace stitch. And so as usual, we start with the 8 stitches of the border. Slip the stitch marker, and so, sorry, I have the yarn that is messing. So we do 2 purl stitches, and now we do 8 knit stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We do knit 2 together. As you can see, the knit 2 stitches are aligning together and create a border of the leaf pattern on this side. Now we knit 1, we do 1 yarn over, and we knit 2 stitches. And as you will notice, there will be 1 stitch that is going to be like a stem in the middle of the leaf, and yarn overs are on each side of that stem stitch. On one side always in the right side row, and on the other side in the purl row. Once you start understanding this logic, it will be easier for you to follow the pattern, because you should be able to see which stitch you need to make next. But obviously, if you're a beginner and all of this is very confusing and new to you, just follow the pattern and it will give you exactly the same result. So knit 8, purl 2 together, knit 1, yarn over, and knit 2. You will also notice that with each row, the number of the stitches knit or purl, that this, you have to do many stitches together, it decreases by 1. So we start with knit 10, and then it's purl 9, and so this row we have knit 8, next row it will be purl 9, and so on and so forth. And so we continue in the same fashion until the end of this row. I am not the most attentive person in the world, and so I do make quite a few mistakes while knitting and have to correct them. So if you're the same, do not worry, you are not alone. This is why having two stitch markers, you see here I did the wrong thing on the purl side, so I'm correcting the knit stitch into a purl stitch from the previous round. And continue working. So yeah, this is why stitch markers might be a good idea for beginners and also for people who tend to make mistakes when knitting, because this way you can check yourself before you continue too far, because obviously this lace pattern is not easy to correct as you go. You'll have to undo your work to correct your mistakes if you made them several rows down the lane. What I find why this stitch pattern can be a bit more challenging is for two reasons. One reason is that in the majority of lace patterns, your knit together and yarn overs are next to each other, and here they get separated further and further apart as you progress with the pattern. And also one big difference here is that usually in lace patterns you purl all the stitches on the wrong side row, and this pattern you have decreases and yarn overs both on the right side and on the wrong side. So we have gotten now to the end of row 11 or row 5 of the lace pattern, and now we're working on the wrong side and working row 12, which is row 6 of the lace pattern. And as usual, we start with the border, eight stitches, 2 knit stitches for the symmetry, and So now we do purl 1, yarn over, purl 3, purl 2 together, and then purl 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and knit 2. Let's do it again. So we purl 1, do a yarn over, purl 3, 1, 2, 3, purl 2 together, purl 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and knit 2. And we continue in this way until the end of the row. And I am finishing off with the border here. And you can see a little bit already the leaf forming in the corner of our pattern repeat. So we are now on row 7 of our lace pattern, which is row 13 in the 2021 version of the pattern, and I've done my border 8 stitches, and I purl 2, knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, knit 2 together. You see our leaf side is being defined by these stitches. Now I knit 2, getting to the stem of the leaf, yarn over, and then knit 3 the rest of the stitches of this repeat. And we continue in this manner until the end of the row. 4, 5, 6, 2 together, 2 stitches, yarn over, and knit 3. You can even count the stitches as you finish the repeat. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 5, yeah. So finished my repeats here. 2 purl stitches and then 8 stitches of the border. Stitches of the border, and we turn round and we continue to the 8th row of the lace pattern, which is row 14 in the 2021 pattern edition. And as always, we start with 8 stitches of the border, and then knit 2 for the symmetry stitches, and we continue with our repeat, which is purl 2, purl 2, yarn over, purl 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can feel with my fingers that in this the next stitch is thicker, so this is where we do our decreases. So purl 4, purl 2 together, and purl 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knit 2, and we start the new repeat. Oh, my stitch marker wants to run away, and we will not let it. So we do purl 2, yarn over, then the next stitch is the stalk of the leaf, 1, we make 3 more for a total of purl 4, purl 2 together, and continue with 5 more purl stitches, and 2 knit stitches. And continue like this again as usual until the end of the stitches. So this is my last repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Purl 2 together, and 5, 3, 4, 5, 2 knit stitches, slip the marker, 8 stitches of the border. And this is how our pattern is looking at the moment, and we're getting close to finishing the first leaf, because first leaf goes in this direction and then the second leaf will go from here slanting to the left. And so the next 2 rows are the 2 final rows of the first leaf. So the border, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, slip the stitch marker. So we are now on row 15, or the 9th row of the lace pattern. Purl 2, knit 4, knit 2 together, knit 3 more stitches, yarn over, and knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's always 1 decrease and 1 yarn over. This way the number of stitches stays the same in each pattern repeat every row. Always 15 stitches from one stitch marker to another. One, two, three, 4. And continue until the end. So I'm finished with the repeats here, doing 2 purl stitches and my border, which also starts with a purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and purl, knit. I'm turning my work for the 16th row or the 10th row of the lace pattern, and 8 stitches for the border, 2 knit stitches for symmetry, and we start our repeat with 3 purl stitches, yarn over, 5 more purl stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, purl 2 together, and 3 more purl stitches and knit 2. So once again we purl 3, yarn over, purl 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now 2 together, 3 more purl stitches and knit 2, and continue in this fashion. Until the end. So I finished my repeats, the 8 stitches of the border, up, up, and so our first leaf is done.